Hi, this is Bradley Sowash with another improv tip of the month. Did you notice that was going to come to an end? What were your cues that were telling you that we were at the end of the tune? This is what this improv tip of the month is about. It's about how to end tunes. And how did you know? A couple ways you knew. That the pitch was dropping and the tempo was slowing. So we're going to talk today about outros, how to make improvised endings to tunes that signal the passenger on the train or the listener to the music that we're about to end the tune. That's what good outros do. Now you want to get the listener to think about that it's coming, so it's not an abrupt stop. Some tunes just suddenly stop, and that is just fine. But other tunes have kind of a warning that we're coming down, and it gets everybody sort of in the place where it's going to end. And then when the ending comes, it's all that satisfying, all that more satisfying. And you want to bring your tunes together to match your intros and your outros. So we talked 2 months ago about intros and about picking intros that were effective for the tune at hand. So you don't want to do like a really basic or corny intro for a really sophisticated tune or a really sophisticated intro to a simple tune. Same thing with outros. You want to look for kind of a matchup. The intros that are going to work for students are going to be a little bit different than they are for players. So I'm going to approach this first by showing some simple intros that students love to play and that other people love to teach. So if you're a piano teacher, this is going to light up some eyes and things like that. So let's just take a simple tune here and put the brakes on. So this is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Everybody knows that tune. Probably the most used educational tune because everybody knows it and because it's not copywritten, which makes it useful. All right, so if we're going to end that tune, we just taught a student that tune or any similar tune in a method book or whatever, a little simple ditty, a nursery rhyme, a folk song, a method book tune with chords in the left hand and melody in the right. We can show them a way to put a little tag on a little ending. And one of those really simple ones that works all across the board really in any style, and it would work in hymns, it would work in kids songs, and it would actually, this particular one would work in any style, any more sophisticated style, which is simply to repeat the last few measures a couple of times. So let's listen to that. How I wonder what you are. We'll do that 2 more times, slowing down. Slowing down, giving a cue like the train rolling into a stop. Finally, much slower. Maybe a little ornament here. Now we know these sounds, and maybe you're smiling like, how can we even teach something so obvious and simple? And yet, if we don't name things, if we don't put a label on them, they're hard to pull out of the bag when you need it. So, play the last ending 3 times, the last few measures 3 times, and slow it down as you go. And it will cue the listener. So let's try something like Summertime. So hush, little baby, don't you. And instead of resolving, we'll repeat those measures. I said, hush, little baby, don't you. Hush, little baby, don't. Slower of all this time, you cry. So, and I changed the last chord, which we'll talk about in a minute. So, you can use this idea of slowing down near the end of the tune, like I said, hymns, folk songs, method book songs. It just works a lot of places. Just take the last couple measures, repeat it 3 times, and slow down. It's a great little trick, and listeners know that it's a kind of a cliche, and it cues them because listeners are not musicians, and they're like, oh, we must be coming to the end, and they get ready to clap or whatever. So the first one is to apply the brakes 3 times near the end. Now, a more corny one is to just restate your last one chord over and over. This was a big deal for the early symphony writers. You hear this in the early Beethoven symphonies, you hear it in Haydn. It kind of lends this seriousness to their to the big orchestra sound. So this is kind of almost funny. Listen to this. And then sometimes one more, right? So that can be almost like, it cracks me up. Sometimes that's not just all one chords, but 1 5 1 5 1, which cracks me up. 1 C chord in this case, G7 for the 5. C G C G C G C G C G C. And you think it's all over, and one more 5 1 5 1. Now you think it's over, but he can't resist. So those sort of endless endings, you can do those, but you better have an amazingly, a piece that precedes it, right? You better have like about 20 minutes of marvelous brass playing and timpanis if you're going to put that kind of an ending. You put that on the end of a 16-bar song, you're just going to make everybody laugh, which might be the point. That's fun too. Humor's always welcome. So there's a simple one. Just repeat your 1 chord or 1 5 1. Okay, another one is to just change your ranges. These are ideas that students can do. These are simpler ideas, and I'll do some sophisticated ideas as we move along here. So a range change would just be to play the last chords a couple places. And then maybe a low tonic note, sometimes called the button. Now, as much as that seems obvious to us, that's really fun for a student, right? That's really fun the first time that you play those chords all the way up the piano and realize that really it's just the hand shape moving up an octave. And that's exciting. You know, what the younger students or newer students want to do, they want to sound pianistic and rich and full. And one way to do that is to show them about, you can play repetitive figures across the piano. Same chord, same chord, same chord, same chord, same hand position and everything. Oh, that sounds so amazing, and to their non-musician friends, they just think that sounds like they have command of the whole instrument. So that's a fun one. So if we can take that figure and move a chord up and down the piano in block chords, then we may as well do them in broken chords, sometimes called the Liberace lick. At least that's how I call it, because he kind of made a career out of flashing up and down the piano. So here it is. Okay, so we're going to just run that across the piano. Corny, but it can be pretty cool, actually. So, we can do it gently, sort of Debussy-like, right? Let's move this over a little bit. More like Debussy would do it gently, or we could do it... That's really hard, but here's a trick. Take the same chord and play it with both hands. It buys you a little bit of time, and it's no harder. Watch. Right hand, left hand on the same notes. Right hand, left hand on the same notes. Right hand, left. So we put that together at a little bit quicker speed. And now if each hand rolls up and back, C, E, G, C, G, E, C. So... amazing. And what am I doing? I'm just playing a C chord running up and down the piano. What a neat trick to get to show a student. Again, that was just rolling my hands up and back. C, E, G, G, E, C. C, E, G, C, G, E. I said it backwards. C, E, G, C, G, E. Like this. On the left hand, I think I'm just cheating. I'm playing C, E, G. So it's a big slap the pedals down, and it doesn't really matter how articulated it is. It's a big fun ending. You put that on the end of a tune, it gets a nice laugh, you know. Santa Claus is coming to town. Yeah, that's corny and fun, and so is Santa Claus coming to town. So pick the outro that fits the style you're trying to work with. Okay, let's see what other ideas I can hear. I call that one flying hands. Another one is just to put a little scale on the end. Just play a little scale, just a major scale. Students can do this. They know their C major scale. So, C scale. That's an easy one. You can put that on so many songs. If it is a minor tune, it's going to work as well. So, I can't think what C. Oops. more sophisticated than a major tune. So just running the scale at the end. Again, these things are simple, but do we think of them? Can you just toss them off in an improvisation or add an ending? As teachers, you could use this to say, let's improvise an ending, or you could say, when a student inevitably says, as they've said to me on my own pieces, I don't like the ending, then you say, well, let's make up a new one. Or maybe they're working on a composition and they need a little ending. Or maybe they're having doing a little, some gigs and like maybe it's a Christmas sing-along and the tunes are not so arranged and there's nothing to sort of wrap it up. So these are some nice endings that we can put there. So the last one for students is to mash these up. So far, let's go over what we've covered so far. I have my notes here. The first thing we said was to play the last three measures, or the last two, some section of the end, the last two measures or so, 3 times, and slowing down as we go. Then we talked about repeating that tonic note. I call that, this is the end, I really mean it. And we talked about a range change. Repeating the chord up and down as a block chord, and we talked about flying hands. And we talked about scaling away. So it scales away up into the clouds. Now we can mash those all together. I have a little example of that here I'll look at. Twinkle, twinkle. Repeating that measure and slowing down. Even more. And now here's our hand over hand on the piano. And here's our repeated tonic note. And one more little scale. And a button. So that's a lot of endings kind of piled together, but it kind of mashed up everything we talked about. All just fun things that students can do. All right, so let's look at some more sophisticated intro ideas that are for more for adults, more for people who know a little bit about what they're doing. One of the really cool ways to bring a little bit of color to that last chord is to add either a second or a sixth, and you can also add both. So let's think of a tune. Let's say, I just thought of Satin Doll because it's in C. This could be Twinkle, anything. Duke Ellington's tune. Here's the chord I'm talking about. So this chord is called a C6-9 chord. And from the bottom up, it has C, E, A, D, G in it. So I'll just write those out for you here. So the left hand plays C, E, and the right hand plays A, D, G. And that's called a C6-9 chord. And because it's a C chord, but it has a 6 and a 9 in it. And there's another way to voice that, by the way. The two common ways to voice that is left hand is here, and right hand is here. It's C, G, and then E, A, D. So let's try this on a couple of tunes. Let's make sure you can see that. Okay, there we go. So those are the two ways. The left hand's on the bottom here. You can voice it any way you like it. In fact, for those of you who are theory geeks, it's the pentatonic scale all spread out. It's all 5 notes of the pentatonic scale. C, D, E, G, A, spread out amongst the hands. So you can play it here, you can play it here. Let's try it on another tune as well. Let's see. What was I doing earlier? Santa Claus is coming to town. Sparkles. It's a wonderful thing. So that's a C6-9 chord. It has a 6 and a 9 in it. And you can also just use either. You could end it with just adding a D to a C chord. That's that, or a second. You could call it a second. Or we could add a 6 to it. So now my chord is E, G, A, C from the bottom up. E, G, A, C. So you can use the 6. You can use the 9, technically a second if there's no 6 present. Don't want to get lost in that. Or you can put them all together. Really nice way to make that last chord sparkle. So, okay, let's go on. Here's another trick. The deceptive cadence. A deceptive cadence means that you play a chord that is not what you would expect. So the very last chord of almost every tune in the world is a tonic chord or a 1 chord, or in the key of C, a C chord. So what you do is you precede it with a chord that has the C note or the tonic note in it. If it has that note in it, then it will sound like it was almost right, but the chord was wrong. So here's what I mean. Let's think about F has a C in it. The notes are F, A, C. And the C chord has a C in it, C, E, G. So we could just substitute an F. Here's an F chord. Okay? And then it resolves. It's sometimes called the plagal cadence. But we're going to take that a little further and have a little more fun with it. Instead of playing an F, we're making an F minor. So your takeaway is this. Substitute a minor 4 chord. And listen what happens. F minor. So maybe that's not the right sound for Twinkle Twinkle, but it gives that nice, sophisticated surprise. So that's a nice deceptive cadence that's used kind of in sometimes in more of a gospel-y sound, like church music. So we've stuck in that little C minor in this case because it was in the key of G. Okay, another deceptive cadence is to go down 2 whole steps from the tonic and then work your way up. If you go down 2 whole steps from a C chord, you get an A flat chord. Now you're expecting a C, but I play an A flat. Oh wow, now a B flat. And now the C. So that's huge sounding. That's kind of needs a big arrangement if you're going to use that one. But again, it's in the category of deceptive cadences, using an unexpected chord in place of the 1. All right. Now another just common one is to play a half step above. So I'm going to play, instead of a C chord, a D flat, but I'm going to have that C note still in there so that it has that that sound of what I want to say. It becomes a major 7. D flat major 7 only because the C is on top. D flat major 7, D flat F, A flat C. And then let it go. Okay. So I'm going to show you one more really fun one, but I want to talk for a minute not about chords, but just some other ideas. One thing you can do is slow the song down and improvise something that is in free time at the end of the tune. A tune by Luis Vamp named Man had the Carnival, or also called Black Orpheus. And it goes something like this. And when he gets to the end of that tune after all that grooving, he slows it way down, so it goes. Still grooving. Here's down the end of the song. Now, what he does is to get rid of the groove. Now it's free time. Using little elements of the melody from the tune. And I threw a little 6 on that last chord, A minor 6. So just improvising in a free way using melodic materials and some of the chords from the tune that can also be a nice sort of unexpected way to wind down a tune. Another fun thing to do is deconstruct a bass line by just taking a note out each time. So let's say we're ending on a nice C6 chord, and I have a walk going underneath, C, E, G, A. C, E, G, A, C, E, G, A. And let's just say the song ended here. I'm going to take a note off each time. This is a fun one. C, E, C, E, G, A, C, E, G, C, E, C. So I just knocked one note off each time. C, E, G, A. This time no A. This time no G. This time no E. Another one is to vamp on the turnaround. The turnaround of those last 4 chords that are near the end of most American songbook tunes. So, this just don't get around much anymore. Don't get around much anymore. That's the turnaround right here. So C, A7, D, minor 7, or D7, G. It's a 1-6-2-5. Here's the 1 chord, 6, 2, 5. So you can do this for an ending. Okay, you can tell I'm winding down, just like the other outros, winding down, slowing down, cueing that the ending is coming. So we're just end with one more little fun thing here. Is the train coming to a stop? Okay, the train's coming along. That's my train outro for today. Until next time, enjoy your creative music making journey.